The prime goal of government is to protect the minority of the opulent from the majority. And in order to do that, you've got to fragment the majority so they really can't get together and do very much. And you have to concentrate power in the wealth of the nation.
Good afternoon. I'm Michael Malice, and let that be your welcome for the next hour. We have... You can turn on the volume. It's an hour, yeah, like last time. Okay. We have with us one of my absolute favorite people, Stephen Miller, Red Steez on Twitter, currently at foxnews.com, but from the past National Review, New York Post. I see from your Twitter bio you're doing something called thewilderness.me. What is that?
That was my original website that the Pod Bros decided to go and make a podcast of.
Oh, so you have your own show now?
No, they just took the name and stole it, but I put that in there sardonically in my Twitter thing. So
geez,
just to let them know you guys have no original ideas left.
Yeah.
So, but no, that was my original website that I did kind of like webzine blogging, so graphics plus long form for about 3.5 years. So
you are someone I bow down to on Twitter, and there's very few. And here's the difference between me and you, and why everyone should follow you on Twitter. I like dunking on people as a class. You dunk on reporters individually, and you hit them every day to the point where they get disturbed by it.
The block button.
Yeah.
Or the filter button.
The block or the filter.
Yeah.
Some of your who are your favorite targets of the day?
I think it depends on the day.
Sure.
I mean, there's some friendly people that I think if they make a crappy point that it needs to be called out. I think Washington Post is egregiously bad right now.
Yeah.
That's but their new Fix team. You have Aaron Blake at the Fix is kind of like gone full, whatever. You of course have CNN, the straight news network.
Yeah.
I think is always good for.
Chris Cillizza at the Fix is another one.
But that gets easy. That gets too easy. He's like the king of the ratio.
Right.
So it gets a little easy after a while.
So people who don't know the ratio, who invented that term? Do you know?
I think it was a leftist thing that came out.
But someone,
it might have been like the dirtbag left guys.
There was a tweet, and the tweet pointed out that if you compare the ratio of comments to likes,
right,
that is a good indicator if a tweet is shit.
Right.
And it actually holds really true as a rule, regardless of your politics. That
usually it's
if someone is being egregiously obtuse on the right or the left.
But if you get a new puppy. Like, let's say, hey, here's my new puppy, and everyone leaves a comment, you didn't really get ratioed on it.
You're telling me that puppy's not going to get likes?
Maybe. No, that's what I'm saying, though.
But it's going to get a lot of both,
right.
So it'll be equal. But what happens, I've seen cases where there's many such cases, where there's like 3 likes and like 500 comments.
Yeah.
And that's when this person is completely out of their mind.
We saw that yesterday with an RT commentator who, was...
oh, gosh.
He bragged about the Stalin gulags.
Yeah.
Went full drill and said, I regret to inform you my Stalin gulag meme was inaccurate.
Yeah, that was the thing. So
We're apologizing for Stalin memes now on Twitter.
She had a meme that's like, capitalism lied to you. That the gulags were like for a finite period, and they had freedom of speech.
Right.
And,
3 squares a day.
Yeah.
People are complaining about.
Yeah.
You had a bad
problem. And then she goes... Oh, I sorry, my Stalin comment was like inaccurate. And then it was Pope Hat, or non-white hats actually, who was like,
one of the hats.
Yeah, you don't get to just be like, oops, sorry, I apologized for Stalin. That's not how it's not like, I got Hoover and FDR at the Great Depression wrong, and it's a complicated issue. It's like, no. You were apologizing, not even Stalin in general.
Well, you also had Mark Kelly, the astronaut, apologizing for Churchill. That was another fun one.
So you're a conservative. So what was your...
Mostly.
Much more than me.
Yeah.
What was your reaction when you saw that? Because I'll tell you mine.
I laughed.
Really?
Yeah. I mean... because it's so ridiculous. I mean, you have an astronaut who apparently he was apologizing because someone posted a Churchill meme.
Right.
Same thing. He's apologizing over a meme, and so he kind of was just like, I apologize. I meant in no way to glorify this racist person from 60 years ago. And you have to just kind of laugh at the ridiculousness of it. You just read it and just go, "Are you kidding me?"
I was very saddened by it. That's interesting that I'm the one who's usually laughing at everything, but I was very depressed. Very depressed.
No, it's depressing.
Yeah, I was like, they took this guy who's a hero.
Yeah,
I mean, and it reminded me, now that we're talking about it, when that physicist or whatever he was, astrophysicist, when they landed that drone on the comet.
Landed a dishwasher on a comet going 30 miles.
And he was wearing a Hawaiian shirt with a sci-fi chick on it that his female friend made for him or bought for him. And
the designer's name is Ellie Preisman.
Yeah.
I wrote about that at my wilderness site.
And they made him apologize.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is like one of the great achievements of humanity.
Yeah.
And you're focusing on a kitschy.
And that's why I don't partake to lectures from the party of science.
Yeah.
Because they don't actually care about science. If they cared about science, they wouldn't give a shit about a guy's shirt.
Which was fine.
Right.
But they didn't care about the shirt. They cared about breaking him.
Right.
And I think the same thing with Churchill. These people don't know who Churchill is. They care about domination.
I don't think Churchill's going to be apologizing.
Right.
Nor is his estate.
Right.
I don't think Churchill cares. But no, and it was just, again, it's the ludicrousness of an American astronaut thinking that the social justice mob knows more about Churchill than him, and so he has to, turn over his penance. He has to throw his pound of flesh at him. Here you go.
He thought that they knew more? You think he's just like, I'm in trouble?
I'm in trouble.
And also, he thought he was being nice and polite. This is how it works. It's preying on people's decency. If I was at your house and you did something that offended me, and I'm like, hey, when you said this, it rubbed me the wrong way, you'd be like, oh, okay, sorry, man, no problem. Mm-hmm. We tend to give people the benefit of the doubt that they're acting in good faith and that and you want to accommodate that as a rule. So I think what's happened with this Kavanaugh stuff, and you're much more in touch with the conservatives than I am, I think a lot more people are getting red-pilled and realizing these people are not just making mistakes.
Right. I mean, that's been for a while, though. I don't think that it's ever been they're just making mistakes. I think the Kavanaugh thing was interesting in the sense of they thought that we're gonna use this old playbook that we used on Thomas, which it didn't work. That's what I thought was so funny, that they tried to deploy this on a guy using a tactic from 30 years ago, 25 years ago, and it didn't work then either. So that's kind of where I take the position of, it was good to have Trump there. It was good to finally have someone there who fights and do all this stuff. Well, no, I mean, Bush didn't cave on Alito. He caved on Harriet Miers, but that was kind of a bipartisan bad
That was
pick.
the Republicans who sat him down.
Yeah, it was kind of
like,
you can't do this. Reagan didn't cave on Thomas. So I look at that and I say the best thing somebody like Trump does in this case is kind of mostly stay out of it. And he gave it to McConnell, and McConnell said, okay, I'm gonna drag this guy across. Yeah, I'm a cocaine Mitch. God bless. I'm going to drag this guy across the finish line for you.
I was amazed. I tweeted this out that we were watching the craziest week in politics, and Trump isn't even in the room.
No, he was largely absent. He stayed off his phone. I thought it wasn't even so much the Twitter thing, because I think that only reaches a limited audience.
Sure.
But it was, even when he was asked questions about it, he was asked, what do you think about the victim? What do you think? And he was like, I want to hear from her. I'm interested in her allegations. And hey, if we have an FBI investigation, I'm all for it.
Yeah,
and
he's like, she seems bright and credible.
And if anything, that's Trump gave the legitimacy for the FBI to investigate, because he came out before even the Republicans said it. And then, of course, you had a red-pilled Lindsey Graham go off on Durbin. I mean, there's this interesting debate about, and we talked about this on my podcast, and I've talked about a little bit about on Twitter, was this more of a case of Lindsey Graham, who is absolutely hated by everybody in the Republican Party as far as voters are concerned, and McConnell even gets a bad rap for, being kind of the cuck establishment, doesn't fight kind of thing, which I think is untrue.
It's clearly untrue. The guy's a ninja.
Since before, and I even think, going back to when this all kind of started with Boehner and Obama, I think Boehner got a bad rap. I mean, Boehner didn't do things that could play well on TV and on radio, but I mean, he sued the Obama administration 9 times and won all 9 cases. They went to the courts to stop Obama's executive orders. But things like that don't sell on Rush Limbaugh. They don't sell on Mark Levin's show. So instead, we get we get anger. But I mean, for all intents and purposes, Trump stayed out of it, and he basically he made the pick, handed it off to McConnell like a quarterback, and said, "Okay, go get him across the finish line." And I think McConnell probably anticipated not so much the sexual assault allegations, but I think McConnell knew what was going on.
Oh yeah,
this was a 5-4 seat to tilt the Supreme Court conservative, and nobody's making any bones about that. You see the argument on the left saying we can't have such an ideological person on the court, and it's like, okay, well, when you put duct tape over RBG's mouth and tape her to the chair instead of giving interviews overseas in Egypt about how our Constitution is flawed, then we can talk about not so much partisan crap on the court.
Wait, did she really say that the Constitution's flawed?
Yeah, overseas. She said when the Arab Spring was going on, she gave an interview.
You don't see this in a CNN documentary. Interesting.
Oh, I know, it's crazy.
I did not know. I was not aware of this.
Yeah, she said she basically told them to not base their constitution on ours because ours had flaws and stuff at the time.
Wow.
Yeah, no, it's a real thing. So, but again, you don't hear that. It's okay if Notorious RBG is partisan, and it's okay if she says, Donald Trump is bad for the country and stuff like this. And that's leave my opinion out of it. I'm looking at what she's saying, and then again, like you said, you don't have CNN going, well, that's partisan. We can't have that on the court. So I think for the most part.
Well, Bill Maher's made this point that the left doesn't see itself as having an ideology or as partisan. They're just on the side of truth and decency. I mean, Bill Maher really.
Well, that's what they believe.
Yeah,
and we saw that today with Grandma coming out and saying, we can have civility again when Democrats take the House or the Senate. She said to Christine Anmurumpour from CNN that we don't need civility right now because there's one party and that party's out to destroy us, so we need to be uncivil. Okay.
My friend Mark, who is one of the smartest and most woke people I know, pointed this out to me over the weekend. He said, what if we are looking at a red wave? Because it would be less unlikely than 2016. Mm-hmm. In 2016, we all knew what was going to happen. We all knew that even if Trump won, that people would vote Democrat to take the Senate as a check on him, which is not what ended up happening. So if you've been looking at the polling, as I have, all the numbers have been shifting toward the Republican, and it just started in the last week. Now Democrats are, if they take the average, up 26 seats to take the House. They need 25. That is a knife's edge.
Yeah. I still think they probably take the House. I don't think they're going to take the Senate.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at, New York Times is now doing polling, and their new polling has Blackburn up by 15. No Taylor Swift.
15?
Yeah,
in Tennessee.
No Taylor Swift bump. They have Menendez has been overtaken, but this is one poll again.
Wait, Menendez is not. Wait, Menendez
in New Jersey.
Wait, they caught up?
They're about even.
I thought he was up 9.
You're gonna make me look this up.
Okay,
no, but they went down the list like Cinema and Sally in Arizona. There's only like about a 3-point difference.
Tester in Montana.
Right.
Missouri looks like it's going to go Republican.
McCaskill and Hawley are close.
Indiana with Donnelly is going to be very close because it's super red.
Right. So I think the Senate's probably going to hold, but I don't see like if that's what people want to call a red wave. Not losing is bad, but I still think the House is probably going to go.
What I call a red wave is if they keep the House.
Right.
If they keep the House, this is theoretically possible.
You're going to have mass suicides if they keep the House.
That's the point. It's not implausible that they keep the House.
Right. I wouldn't say it's implausible. I think it's probably improbable, but I'm not known for my political
But my
predictions.
point is, it's more likely than 2016. So let's play out the scenario. If twice in a row the Republicans win by having the Democrats have the rug pulled out from under them, I don't think we've seen anything like that in our lifetime.
No. Just because of media influence and, they think that they have the culture influence with celebrities and Amy Schumer giving her Antifa fist to the sky kind of thing.
My buddy Jim Goad said she's holding up an invisible bag of McDonald's and daring you to take it.
The amount of people who've seen her last movie in the theater.
Yeah.
I think, and we talked about that on my podcast, is I think Democrats... They have to do a serious recalculation as a party. I think that requires tossing Obama overboard, and I don't think that they're ready to do that. And what I mean by Obama, I mean by the culture that he brought to that party. He brought the protest culture, the screaming of people in restaurants, the blocking of traffic, which just makes people go, well, screw this, I'm voting Trump.
The university left.
Right, and then it's also the Hollywood left. It's, the unabashed promotion of we're going to just turn all of our messaging over to celebrities.
And also this subtle contemptuousness towards the middle class.
That's the same thing.
Yeah.
It's the same. It's this abandoning the working class in, flyover country. That big,
it's not even
that
abandoning
big useless chunk of America between L.A. and New York.
It's worse than abandon. It's not even ignoring. It's holding them as the villain.
Yeah, it's the bitter clingers, and it's the it's the white rubes, and it's the hicks, and you're all dying of fentanyl. Oh well,
Yeah. So what was fascinating is the Democrats want to win, understandably, and they saw that this Kavanaugh thing blew up really badly in their face. Yeah. So what's their next move? Attacking white women. You saw that New York Times op-ed, I'm sure. Yeah. White women, come get your people. And to me, it's like, okay, we've lost white men overwhelmingly. Mm-hmm. Now we're going to go after white women. So we're not only going to lose white women, we're going to lose those white men even more who are going to white knight for those white women.
Right.
I don't understand, other than being, this is why I talked about.
That's based on them thinking they can replace those voters, which would be, that would be urban voters. That doesn't necessarily mean Black or Hispanic. It just means that they think that they can replace those voters with something else.
I don't think that's what it is. I think, I talk about this in my forthcoming book, I think when you have this fundamentalist ideology, you're not thinking about the win scenario. I think you have to double down on what you know to air quotes be true and not think of consequences.
Right.
I don't think they're being conniving and strategic.
I wouldn't say I don't think they're gathered in a room saying, but I think that
they should be.
But they're counting. Well, of course they should be. But
right.
They're not. But the self-introspection is the worst aspect of the Democrat Party. They're not going to do that.
Right.
It's the election was stolen, and now it's, when Trump wins, it's we have to get rid of the Electoral College.
Right.
And now when Kavanaugh's confirmed, well, we have to get rid of the Senate now, and also the Supreme Court's illegitimate. And these are the exact same people who constantly rail about how Trump is upsetting democratic institutions and norms. So there's not a lot of coherence going on right there. And like I said, until they can kind of toss that overboard, this is where they're going to be. They're going to be stuck. I kind of said the first candidate in 2020 who says that, who doesn't necessarily say we have to get away from, is going to probably be the nominee. And the first person who's done that is Michael Avenatti.
Yeah.
So he's the first guy who says, you have Michelle Obama, when they go low, we go high. And Michael Avenatti said, bullshit, we go low, we hit harder. And that's ear candy to, the Antifa left and the university left. So
and the other thing is, in their defense, if you come at them and say you have to throw this overboard, they go, we tried that last time and we lost to Trump.
Right.
They're going to say, we tried to moderate, now that didn't work, so we have to, that's the one thing I think that is absolutely fascinating. Here, the strongest people, I think, for the Democrats in 2020, the strongest by far, is not going to run because he's too old, is Jerry Brown.
Maybe.
I think if Jerry Brown ran on his California record, he would be really hard to beat.
Well, you're probably going to have Garcetti's going to probably toss his hat in there, and you probably have Gavin Newsom is going to toss his hat in there.
No, you think?
Yeah, maybe. I think every Democrat under the sun is looking at running in 2020.
I think the hardest one to beat is going to be Biden for Trump.
I don't know about that. I mean, you're already seeing the hints of where if Biden runs, they basically say, we want you to promise to one term, we want you to pick a running mate who's 30 years old.
Right, right.
And then but Biden's not going to do that. He's not. He might commit to one term, but then he's of course he's not going to do that. He's a politician. I don't know how legit that is. I don't know. I mean, it's absolutely insane to me. And I think Trump has made this easier, that Biden is looked at as some revered elder statesman because he was vice president for 8 years. But Biden, this is a guy who was just a notorious gaffe machine and a clown and just a guy who couldn't get any respect at all. He never finished higher than 12th.
Yeah, but the point is, if we have one gaffe machine...
Right, no, that's what I said.
They're washed.
We kind of deserve, where we are as a country, we kind of deserve the Trump versus Biden, which is, right. I said if Biden got in last election, he probably would have won.
Yeah, because at least he'd know where to campaign.
Right, yeah, he knows where Wisconsin is.
Right.
But now he's going to be 120 years old. And I mean, it would be nuts. I would think he's probably up there as far as nominees. I don't know if he wins or not. I don't know how you energize young voters. And that's where the Democrat Party wants.
If Sanders can energize young voters, Biden can. Biden looks younger. He seems more affable. By every
he's
standard.
on the verge of death.
I don't see who else is going to... Here's what's going to happen if it's Kamala Harris, right? And this is not even a function of Democrats, of the media's partisan leanings.
Right.
Is you have a shiny new thing, like you had with Obama and Sarah Palin.
Yeah.
You get all excited about the shiny new thing. The shiny new thing is actually a human being and is going to make a mistake or have it be construed as a mistake.
Right.
Then the masses are going to be like, wait a minute, why are you still praising this person now that the shine is off the rose, and it's going to blow up in their face?
Yeah, Kamala Harris is... I think she's a top contender, but the thing about, you've already heard whispers, that she's a prosecutor.
Yeah.
And they don't want a cop.
Right, Cop Kamala.
The Antifa left does not want a cop who, she's going to run on her tough on crime record. And so that's kind of her first roadblock that she has to get over.
She's not bright.
She's good at not being silenced.
Yeah. Well, that's why if he calls, this is what...
She will never be silenced.
This is what I tweeted out. If he calls her the screaming senator... Right? Because he'll be like, Kamala, I don't know how to pronounce her name. We'll call her the screaming senator, respect her, senator. Then, whatever she does, she looks like a loon.
Yeah.
And then there'll be the articles like he's being racist by saying black women are too loud. I mean, it plays out by itself.
We just had on our pod, we just to break up, this was pre-Kavanaugh, to break up the news, we did our 2020 handicapping, which is God knows right now. And so John Gabriel, who's at Energy for Ricochet, is my podcast co-host. He thinks
who's also a great follow, XJohn on Twitter, EXJON.
He thinks it's going to be Kirsten Gillibrand.
No way.
I don't think so.
No way.
I think it's going to be Elizabeth Warren.
Nope.
She has the war chest, pardon the pun. I think she was the one that they wanted for 3 years ago.
Yes.
It was always settle for Hillary when you had Bill Maher offering Warren a $2 million check on his show to run.
Right.
So I think that that's the one they wanted, and I think they're going to kind of maybe clear the benches a little bit. But she's been very, very quietly raising money.
Oh, yeah.
Raising money, tons of money. She's just been sitting on it over here.
Just like Jeb.
Yeah, right. No, she's not Jeb, but I think Warren's probably. It's going to be interesting to see if you have Bernie and Warren fighting over that lane.
That is interesting. They're going to have some kind of, maybe it'll be like Rockefeller Nixon sitting down having the New York Compromise, or whatever that was called.
Right.
What we don't anticipate, those of us who are obsessed with politics and all this stuff, is, which has been historically completely unprecedented, is that while one party is having their nominations, the president
It's going to be on Twitter.
of the other party is going to be on Twitter the whole time,
Yeah.
tweeting live and attacking strategically.
Yeah.
And just nukes,
Or unstrategically even.
yeah. But just lobbing nukes the whole time. So
Yeah.
now they have to react from each flank. And
Yeah.
I don't know, there's no roadmap for them.
Yeah, it is going to be interesting to watch, Trump just having executive time during those debates.
Yeah.
And just live, exactly what you said. He'll just be live tweeting. And of course, the problem and I've joked about this on Twitter, is the problem that Warren is going to have during this is basically, I said if Avenatti calls Warren Pocahontas on that stage, it's over. He's going to be the nominee. But I also said, how that argument's going to go between Warren and Trump is you're going to have Warren saying, my family history is a rich tapestry of inclusion, like all Americans, and all immigrants have stories that they bring to to great. And Trump's going to go, take the DNA test, Pocahontas.
No, he'll say, show me your tapestry,
right.
but you weave it
he'll
yourself.
Just say, take the DNA test, Pocahontas, and that will be 9 months of that election. But you're absolutely right. It's going to be unlike anything we've ever seen, where you have a president reacting in live time to what's going on with the other party. And it's going to be kind of the opposite of what you saw with Obama and then 17 GOP guys falling over each other thinking, hey, yeah, we got this.
Right.
And then, of course, you're going to have guys like Michael Avenatti, who's kind of Twitter savvy. He's going to probably be throwing bombs at, live like this. And so, yeah, basically every election from here on out is going to be decided with Twitter.
Well, I mean, or whatever surpasses Twitter.
There's nothing to surpass it yet.
Not
though.
yet, but I mean,
so maybe. We haven't had if this is the MySpace of microblogging, we haven't had the Facebook come along yet.
I mean, something's going to come along with 420 characters. It's 50% better,
right? Maybe.
How much? So when you are dropping your bombs on Twitter, are you being visceral, or are you carefully wording what you tweet?
It's a little bit of both. I mean, definitely when you see something, it depends on how quick you want to be. It depends on what kind of response. Sometimes it just comes to you like like madness. It'll just hit you, and this is what I'm going to obviously do. Like you and I had an overlap yesterday, which was funny. This is
within 1 second of each other.
It's like Fox News had the Anthony Weiner to be
released early.
And I just go, I think you mean prematurely, obviously. And then you, of course, you go, it means he's going to come early.
No, I said,
he's going to come prematurely.
He's not going to be paroled. He's going to come quick.
Right.
Yeah,
so you just go for the throat on that one. So, I mean, obviously. And then, of course, that's all out there. So God bless you, Anthony. We need you. But yeah, it depends. I mean, I think I tweet too much, but I mean, this is what I have in my hands at all times.
You're not on your computer? Or you do on your phone?
Sometimes on my computer. I mean, I have my Mac with something else going on over here, and then I don't use TweetDeck or anything. I just use the regular.
Yeah, same here.
I use the regular timeline, and everything's kind of a jumbled mess. I don't use lists. I just kind of. I'm kind of just an info junkie. I can't turn my head off, so I'm just constantly reading. I'll click stories. I'll read stuff. I don't always tweet about things that I read, just because I'm not that kind of person where I don't really think I'm smarter than most people. So I'm not out here going, you should read this interesting article. I found this great, because I don't really think people care that much.
Right. They want the burns.
Yeah, they kind of just want, it's Twitter's a fascinating medium in the sense of how witty, how kind of quick you can be, plus how witty you can be. And it doesn't really, that's kind of my one complaint, is just it's very democratic medium, and this is why reporters don't like it, journalists don't like it, because anybody can just can contact someone they couldn't usually do, and that could be a journalist, it could be a pop star, it could be a movie star, it could be a company. So like CNN could throw out a tweet, and then you can respond to it instantly. Everybody kind of controls information on the website, and then it's whatever boils to the top is what generally what people are talking about. And
let me give people advice, and I got this from Stealth Jeff, who's Draw and Strike is his handle. Yeah, I'm sure you follow.
I think I know who he is. Yeah,
he was buddies with Thomas Wichter. Rest in peace. Michael Malice here. I want to tell you guys about this week's sponsor, Simple Habit. It's an amazing 5-minute meditation app that helps busy people stress less, achieve more, and live better. You get an iOS, Android, the web. It's an app for daily stress release that just won the 2018 Google Play Award for Best Wellbeing App. That's no small feat. So it takes 5 minutes a day to improve your life. They've got meditation guides by the world's best teachers. You've got mindfulness experts at Google, or you've got former monks. You've got the whole range. It's perfect for your busy lifestyle. You can meditate with their simple on-the-go feature to quickly calm your nerves and or anxiety and achieve that state of mindfulness that we all need. They have guided meditations for specific symptoms: sleep, stress, anxiety, depression, or life situations. It'll help you relax and calm down for your commute, for your tough day at work, and more. There's a self-care ritual to be healthier. You can clean your mind so you can better achieve your goals, this cleansing ritual. And you could deal with emotional states like anger, stress, frustration, and panic. It's just 5 minutes a day, and it can give you that peace of mind that we all like. And here's the best thing. It's easy to use, and it's very inexpensive. You can sign up for a free, we all like free, a free 7-day trial by using the link simplehabit.com/welcome. If you go to simplehabit.com/welcome, or you can click the link in the episode description, you get a free 7-day trial, and you're 5 minutes away from being less stressed and being more centered. That's simplehabit.com/welcome. So I had guys from this show called The Creepy Line on my from the documentary The Creepy Line here a couple of weeks ago. And they talk about how Google, Twitter, and Facebook put their fingers on the scale to manipulate results in ways that you won't be able to see it. Here's the example that he used, which is, let's suppose I'm Facebook and I send out that message, remember to vote today, right? What if I only sent that out to people who had checked off that they like Democrats? No one would have any way of knowing. Right. But this would be a very effective mechanism to mobilize people, right? So if you go into this is something creepy on Twitter that everyone should do right now, including you, because I bet you it affects you. If you go to your settings and then you go onto I don't know if I could do it on the phone. I did it on my laptop. And it goes onto your Twitter data. There's a section where it says interests that it's deduced from your tweets that you have never checked off. And among those interests,
I think I know what you're talking. I think I know where you're going.
And among those interests will be TV shows, conservatism, Trump, whatever. It has me liking The Five, a show I've never watched, and all these other Christian values, all these things. Go in there and uncheck, and you have to keep doing it every day because it repopulates. Go in there and uncheck those right-wing.
I didn't know you had to do it every day, but I did know about the. It caters kind of your feed to your likes and whatever. Yeah. So I went in. I have one Twitter like on my entire feed. It's Pierce Morgan. I want to die. It's the only tweet I like.
I use my likes as a bookmarking for tweets of mine that were successful. But if you go in there and uncheck all those things, my engagement increased immediately and dramatically.
Interesting.
So they are manipulating stuff behind the scenes.
I think I was probably throttled. I know that was a big, controversy, and I noticed towards the beginning of the year I was like stuck at 137. I don't really keep track, but I was like, I noticed I wasn't kind of budging. Yeah. And then the Vice story came out.
What's this?
The Vice story came out that basically where Twitter admitted, they were throttling accounts. They were just basically hiding them, not showing up in search, basically is how they did it. Yeah. Which was interesting because that was something that some conservative websites, and I know Project Veritas did something for a while. But it was interesting because that was only when the mainstream media like CNN caught on, is when Vice reported on it. So, a leftist outlet said it's happening. Right, so now it must be happening. Right. And then I would say about a month after that, like suddenly my thing starts going up. I don't really, again, that's not one of those things I pay attention to. I kind of look at metrics once in a while.
Oh, I have an Excel sheet.
I'm
all over
obsessed
this.
with that kind of stuff?
I am obsessed with this kind of
Is it
stuff.
just the data of it all?
Yeah. Maybe it's my autism speaks moment, but I definitely keep track of the data.
Definitely.
Because it's also, definitely keep track of the data. It's also my way of knowing what people like and what people don't.
Yeah.
I had this one when the Kavanaugh hearings were going on and people were getting very, very upset, understandably. My role as a troll is not to be upset. And I did a 4chan tweet where I put Brett Kavanaugh's face in the Virgin Mary and I said, "You've been visited by the Virgin Brett. Let me remind you, this will pass and all will be well."
Yeah.
And I meant it as a way of support of him, like relax.
Right.
And I got 70, people lost their minds. And then when I retweeted after he was confirmed, they all liked it. But
yeah, there was, I would say,
people were upset.
The Kavanaugh thing, I mean, you really had long-term people kind of ripping each other apart over it. I mean, you had some people on the right who were unfollowing people. I got unfollowed by a few people on the right. And I'm kind of with you. I was kind of like, this is going to pass. We're all going to be adults eventually, confirm or not. But my DMs were just off the chart, lit up. I'm supposed to know something, and they're, what's going on? I'm losing, and I'm just like, you know what? Did you notice how McConnell was just calm? It was after the Blasey Ford. It was after the testimony,
which is hard to
when
do with
media
the
were just
nose.
blowing up, and people were just like, "Oh, I'm going to lose it. This is not going to." So, did you notice just how calm everybody was, and especially when they announced the FBI investigation, they were like, "Oh," when Flake kind of. Flake is just dying in his seat, and they agreed to it. And that's when the right flipped out and said, this is their hearing. They're going to give the left what they want, and their nomination's going to get pulled. And I was kind of like, just stay calm about this. McConnell was calm. Grassley was calm. The White House was calm, which means I think that they probably knew something that they didn't. It was kind of like, fine, investigate it, whatever. You're not going to, if he's telling the truth, you're not going to find anything, which they didn't.
Here is why I didn't have 100% sympathy for Kavanaugh. Because...
Neocon Bush guy?
No, because he worked under Ken Starr.
Yeah.
And he saw what they did to Ken Starr, where every day, you're old enough to remember this, every day is Ken Starr is a Puritan, he's obsessed with sex.
Space alien, obsessed, that was one of the actual things, he's a sex star space alien.
Oh, yeah, so they, every
that
day,
one was from Carville Land.
They were attacking him every single day. MoveOn.org got their name from the idea that we should move on.
Yeah.
Because it's not about perjury, it's about, whatever.
And that's...
And he was there. He was Starr's right-hand man.
Yeah.
So he went through this. So I understand it's very disturbing when you're being accused out of nowhere for 30 years that you're not only a gang rapist and an alcoholic. And I don't think, by the way, for the record, I've said this before, I don't think it's implausible that in 1982, a drunk high school kid pins a girl in her bed and covers her mouth and thinks it's funny for 10 seconds.
Right.
I mean, that's like the Porky's milieu, and she's upset about it, and he doesn't register with him.
Right.
I don't think that's remotely implausible. What is shocking is that you're telling me this now 30 years later. I wish I could have apologized at the time, which I'm sure he would have.
Yeah.
And Graham was right. It's like, wait a minute, you don't stop being a gang rapist. It's like you kind of...
And you usually stop going to gang rape parties if you've been there.
Right. So that's why I had limited sympathy for him, because he saw this.
He'd gone through it.
I
think that, and what the interesting thing about that was, you saw where he said in his opening statement, he goes, I don't, whatever this is about, if it's about this or is about, or is it revenge for the Clintons?
Right.
And then that line jumped out, and you saw the press run with, conspiracy theories. And I was like, no, guys, I could list you 5 stories where you talked about how he crafted questions for Clinton.
Yes.
Graphic questions for Clinton. Now, do I think that's...
That were asked?
Do I think Schumer and Durbin and these guys all got together and said, we're going to railroad this guy for what he asked Bill Clinton? No, I don't think that that's specifically the case. But you can't say in the media that it's not an issue when you made it an issue, a week before the actual allegations came out, where you said, what do you mean? What do you mean? He was Ken Starr's right hand guy, and he helped craft the questions for these graphic, dirty questions about this honorable president's sex life and just embarrassing him. You just want to embarrass this president. And then, of course, when he says, whatever it is, he goes, if this is revenge for something, whatever. And then, of course, the press picks up that one, little
But the
line
thing that
and
the
runs
press
with
was
it.
even more disingenuous about was those questions he wrote were actually asked of Clinton. We have video
Right.
of him being asked. So they're asking like, oh, he wrote these things because he's a pervert, and Ken Starr, it went in the garbage. Go, no. He actually did his job as a prosecutor, and those questions were asked. And here's the video.
Yeah.
I put this on my show Nightshade. I couldn't believe that they were like, "Oh my God, we found these questions Kavanaugh wrote." It's like we have video footage of it from 25 years ago. So what are you talking about?
Yeah. It wasn't a big secret.
It was like literally everyone was watching it in the country. They're watching that footage. I was very heartened to see Molly Hemingway, who's a doll, who I'm sure you like. Writes for the Federalist. She was tweeting at Yahoo in all caps. Like so many people, AG_conservative, who I really don't agree with, who's kind of pompous. He was like, the press is the enemy. There's no other way to say it. Like there's a lot of people who are like, okay, this is so far beyond mistakes.
Oh, it wasn't mistakes.
Yeah.
And it was, and I think that and you're right with AG, who I do like. I've known him on Twitter since I think I joined since 2012. But any goodwill I think that they might have had from anyone on the right who, I'm kind of with you, where I'm kind of in the sense of they're biased. It should be called out, but are these guys, in the sense the enemy of the people, as Trump puts it. I'm kind of like, that's Trump, in his WrestleMania mode at the rallies. So I kind of write a lot of that off. So even any goodwill that they might have had, where you think Trump's being hard on these guys, I think disappeared for a lot of people because it was intentional. You had Ken Delano from NBC, who was just going overboard with false stories, and you had, like I said, Washington Post was a big one. Obviously, New Yorker,
Right, with Ronan Farrow.
Right, and you had CNN. You had Anderson Cooper with Michael Avenatti on the night that he released that affidavit. So this idea that the Democrats are saying Avenatti cost us this whole thing, that's not true. You had Elizabeth Warren tweeting about the allegations on the day that he came out with them. They included them in the testimony. So I think that they did probably squander a lot of goodwill with even people who were semi-sympathetic to them with Trump, and I don't know how they get that back. And maybe they don't care. Maybe they think that losing, the 5-4 Supreme Court and going full handmaids is worth, trashing any semblance of objectivity.
Yeah, and here's the thing. I tried super male vitality yesterday for the first time, but I'm not in full tinfoil hat mode like some people.
How was it?
Super. I don't.
Okay?
Yeah, my legs fell off, but otherwise I'm fine. I don't think Dr. Ford was lying. I don't think she's some kind of operative. I think she genuinely did not want this to be public,
right? And
that it was leaked. Yeah. She was a victim of this process. Mm-hmm. I believe her when she said, "I'm scared to testify in front of the Senate." There's nothing. I think that's very, very clear. And I think what people are not attacking is how the hell did this woman not be told that they were willing to take her testimony secretly in California?
There's a lot of questions like that, and I'm kind of with you. I'm not interested in going after Christine Blasey Ford. I'm interested in the part that she was forced to play in this whole thing.
Right.
You saw Brian Stelter on CNN talk about, the letter just leaked out. Well, excuse me, what?
Right?
How did the letter leak out?
He's blocked you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Stelter blocked you.
God,
God
rest
bless.
in peace.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think there are questions that should be asked. I don't know if they need an investigation, but I think that you're right.
I think they do need an investigation.
How did generally in politics, it's similar to like Hillary. You stand in the sense where you say Hillary should be prosecuted. Yeah, but she lost the presidential election. Let's just let it go. And it's the same thing here. Well, we got Kavanaugh. Let's just put it behind us.
But I think it's...
And then, of course, there's the Trump base where they're like, no, lock these fuckers up.
No,
all of them.
I'm sorry. I think it's very important for whistleblowers to have protection and to feel secure.
That's what I said about... Well, what I said about the thing was... when people were upset, Christine Blasey Ford had something like 4 GoFundMes that were official,
right?
Like that she knew about, and they were close to like they're closing on about $1 million. Like one was at 750, and people were like, "This is ridiculous. She's a liar." I'm like, "No, I think she deserves every single penny for getting death threats because of Dianne Feinstein."
And people were like, "Well, she knew this was going to happen." I'm like, "I promise you, when she wrote a secret letter to Dianne Feinstein, she didn't think she was going to get $1 million from GoFundMe."
Yeah, I think that was my biggest takeaway from her testimony. She didn't seem to me dishonest. I don't even know if she seemed credible because she didn't really have a straight story for anything. But she did seem overwhelmed. She did seem like she didn't really know what she was doing there or that she wanted to be there. And you saw that with Grassley saying, "Did you know that, we could fly out there?" And then you had lawyer guy.
Yeah.
this wasn't a trial, but lawyer guy can object. That was one of my funniest
right,
things.
Right.
It kept that point where she's just sitting there like, and then her lawyers are, we paid for the polygraph.
Yeah.
That kind of, I thought that was insane. I was like, she was clearly not fully aware of the process that she was involved in. And I don't know if that's honesty or dishonesty. It's just how she looked to me. She just looked, I thought the airplane thing was dumb. I think she cleared that up. People said it was, a fear of flying, which was easily disproven. And I think she did clear up that she said, I didn't want to get on a plane to come testify here.
And I
think that's understandable. I think
it's also understandable that she's saying, I'm not saying he should be in jail. I'm just saying he shouldn't be in the Supreme Court, and I felt it was my duty to talk.
That's a logical fallacy. If the guy is a sexual assaulter and a gang rapist, and this is what I said, should he not be impeached off the D.C. circuit also?
That's what, right.
Because there was this attitude, if you just withdraw,
right,
we'll let this go. No, the guy's a serial gang raper. He's hosting Eyes Wide Shut parties. I think we should probably deal with that guy.
Yeah.
And you didn't see that. This was all about the seat. It was 100% about, hey, if you just break your arm, and if you just withdraw, which is what I think they were expecting to have happen.
Correct.
If you just withdraw, we'll just let you go back to the D.C. Circuit Court in peace, and we won't interrupt your meals for the next 30 years.
But this is again another reason why I do feel for her, because I don't think she was caught up in forces beyond her control. I mean, pretty obviously.
Yeah, and I don't know how much I buy into the Monica McClain stuff with the Preet Bharara stuff, the Chuck Schumer stuff, but I'm with you. She, one way or another, she wrote a confidential letter.
Right.
Maybe she thought that's enough. Like, hey, if I just write this, they'll put it in front of committee and he'll withdraw, and whew, that's enough. Because even smart people, which she's a PhD, even smart people aren't really aware of the process like, say, you or I are. It's like, I'm just going to write the letter and send it off. And
right.
So, yeah, I definitely think that there are questions that need to be asked, and especially if Deborah Katz, her attorney.
I don't think Grassley's going to let this go. Grassley, you saw that last letter, he was pissed.
Oh, yeah.
He's pissed.
And especially if I think if there's any communications between, when in that last paragraph of his last letter, he said,
right,
you're free to turn over all of your notes still. Turn over all your therapist notes. You can hand them to me. This was after the vote. He's still like, I want to see them. Give them to me. And he then, in that last paragraph that people had everyone's, antennas kind of buzzing, was he said, in addition to your therapist notes, please turn over any and all communications in light of new information between you, yourself, your team, and specifically Senators Feinstein and Mazie Hirono.
Yeah.
And that got people like perking up a little bit, because then it becomes, with the Leland Kaiser coming out and saying in the FBI report, it was leaked that she was pressured to change her story. Now, if it's a friend pressuring her to change her story,
right?
If it's Christine Ford calling her and saying, I need you to change your story, that's one thing. If it's Deborah Katz telling her to change her story, or if it's Mazie Hirono telling her to change her story, or if it's Dianne Feinstein telling you to change your story, there's probably going to be prosecutions.
And that's the thing, that they think they've lost, but I think there's more loss.
And that was the thing you saw with the FBI report. They went from, we must see this FBI report to when they all went in and viewed it, and then it was Maeve Railstorm from ABC. I think I just jumbled her name. Whatever. Said they all walked out stone faced.
Yeah.
Because I think they saw that FBI report and said, "Oh, we don't need that public."
Yeah.
Like that talking point vanished.
Died. Right.
Until you have Pelosi standing up and saying, "I want a Freedom of Information request on this FBI report," which is impossible. It's FBI Freedom of Information requests don't pertain to Congress.
Right.
So that was an interesting other bit where they went from, we must see the results of this, to suddenly it was his temper was the problem.
There's someone who just popped up on my radar screen recently who I think might be worse than Jennifer Rubin, and I want to know what you think of Max Boot.
Max Boot was always kind of part of the old guard to me. I mean, when I kind of got into this whole thing 2011, 2012, didn't read much about him. I knew he was an author, never read him. That's the same way I am with Jennifer Rubin. These people never really had an effect on how I view things. I never really paid attention to them, therefore I don't really care about Max Boot. Obviously, you see the kind of hypocrisy, and I think that the Never Trump thing is interesting. I'm, to a certain extent, a Never Trump guy. I still have no plans to vote for him in 2020. I didn't vote for him in 2016. But there are these very many levels of Never Trump, where you have guys like me where I don't plan on voting for him. I kind of wish he wasn't the guy that's there, but he is. He won, so you have to kind of accept the playing field that you're on. And more importantly, you have to realize how he won and why he won, which, entails going to look at the voters and going to look at the states and looking at the problems and the grievances and then how this happened. And then you have somebody who's like Max Boot or Jennifer Rubin, who's just gone kind of full circle off the deep end.
Oh, yeah.
Where they're just full progressive now. They're going to vote Democrats. That's what they're going to do, in which case you're not really a conservative anymore if you're not going to vote for conservatives.
But they're not. There's a lot of progressives I admire strongly, and it's like they're not decent people. And I it's very rare for me to say someone is not a decent person based on their tweets. But when Max Boot tweeted out yesterday, he's like, this is his tweet. He goes, I did some research, and it turns out Barry Goldwater was actually an extremist. Barry Goldwater's most famous quote, which anyone who knows anything about Republican history, is in 1964 at the Cow Palace in California, which was recently tore down. He was attacked the whole campaign as an extremist by the Johnson people. He got up there and said, let me remind you, extremism in defense of liberty is no vice. And let me also remind you, moderation in the pursuit of justice is no virtue. Yeah. And everyone in America gasped because it was like, he's doubling down. This is very famous, like 1,000 Points of Lights, Read My Lips on Your Taxes. And Max Boot's like, it turns out Barry Goldwater is an extremist. I go, you are clearly lying.
Yeah.
Like, there's no possibility you, who are educated...
Or you've gone so far off that you're trying to erase. And so I saw somewhere where they brought up his old tweets praising Goldwater, and now Goldwater's an extremist.
Yeah, but Goldwater was a self-identified extremist.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm like, you are not a decent person.
Yeah. I think I look at it and I say...
And wait, just one more thing. And it was Nancy Pelosi's daughter who made a documentary about Goldwater not that long ago, which was very...
Blocked by her.
You're blocked by her too? But it was complimentary toward Goldwater.
Yeah. I think a lot of... And I don't really do a lot of dunking on Rubin. I just think it's easy. I just, at this point, it's like, why? I saw the letter that, you had the conservative writers write to the Washington Post demanding they denounce her as the Republican writer. And I think that letter went too far because it basically said, to be a conservative, you must adhere to President Trump and his policies,
which is not true.
And that's where I kind of looked at that.
Completely untrue.
And that's where, again, when I talk about many levels of never Trump, that's where you lost me. I'm like, I'm fine with writing a letter to the Washington Post, although I look at it and say Washington Post is probably going to, into the garbage. They don't care. But I also never bought into the hashtag games of it. I'm generally against any hashtag games.
Yeah.
I don't ever use a hashtag unless I'm using it ironically, usually on a tweet. And so this hashtag never Trump thing, I'm just kind of like, come on, guys, But yeah, you see, there's these many levels. So a guy like Max Boot, he's for all intents purposes, he's gone liberal now. Okay, that's how he's going to work, and that's the playing field he's on now. Same with Jennifer Rubin, and same with Tom Nichols, who I, despite a lot of stuff on Twitter, I kind of like Tom. I think he's kind of funny sometimes.
I can't imagine any Democrat or progressive saying, oh, it turns out Barry Goldwater was an extremist. I can't wrap my head around that. Like, that's not something a leftist would do.
But they're also playing off the naivete of younger audiences on Twitter and younger, like you said, the university left. So that's how they're going to write the narrative.
But my point is that's being dishonest, as opposed to being on the left where you could be honestly and proudly a progressive or a leftist. That's a big difference. And that's when it's a moral issue.
Right.
For me.
Yeah. I don't pay attention to Max Boot.
Okay, well, I know I just noticed him in the last week, and I'm like, you are far worse to me than Jennifer Rubin.
Yeah.
Or Tom Nichols, who I find pompous, but Tom Nichols would not be intentionally, in my opinion, dishonest to that level.
Yeah. And what's really interesting is, and you see this now, especially with Nichols, where he kind of came out and said, I'm leading the Republican Party, and right off the bat, here's an Atlantic piece. You're on MSNBC. You're on CNN. And I've talked to writing for liberal outlets. There's a few that have approached me about, writing stuff for them. And it's kind of like, okay, well, I'm not going to bend my view for you. I'm not going to just come out. And I think that that's the problem a lot with where we are media-wise, is you have outlets like that, who only want the anti-Trump conservative point of view.
Right.
For
diversity.
Right. I generally like Daily Beast because, like, Matt Lewis, I generally think is even-handed. To where he's anti-Trump, but he's not so crazy about it. But there's outlets I've talked to, and it's kind of like, well, here's ideas. There's things that are being explored. I didn't really pitch, but I was talking to an editor of one of liberal websites, and I said, it's really interesting to me. How did Alyssa Milano become the face of Me Too? As opposed to Rose McGowan, who she didn't start the Me Too,
largely,
but the Weinstein stuff started with McGowan, and now you have Alyssa Milano, in hearings leaning over to look at Kavanaugh.
Yeah. Are you the boss?
She's like looking, she's clearly leaning because she can see the camera.
Yeah, yeah.
So here's Kavanaugh reading a statement, and there's Alyssa Milano in the background.
Photobombing him.
Like Chris Hansen on,
Have a seat. Let me have a seat.
Right. And then all of a sudden she's on CNN, and then she's on Meet the Press. And I'm kind of like, when did Alyssa Milano become the face of the Me Too movement, considering, if you know the background of the Me Too movement, who her husband is.
Who is her husband?
She's an agent for CAA. Which was one of the big representations of Weinstein.
Wow.
And Rose McGowan blew the lid off that whole thing in an interview where they asked her, why aren't you and friends with Alyssa Milano? She's like, I don't like her. And she actually says, do you think I don't know these people? Do you think I don't know the associations of these people? And she goes, do the math. Alyssa Milano's husband is friends with this, is an agent. And she goes down the line.
Wow.
And the reason why they're making somebody like Alyssa Milano is, one, her social media presence. She does like the raw story videos, but the other is McGowan can't be contained.
And she's not well.
No, I mean, yeah,
she's a crazy person.
But does that really change?
No, I'm just
it's the idea that the media can't contain somebody like Rose McGowan. Like, she went on Colbert and she sits with her knees up and she shows up in a hoodie and her head shaved, and that's not what the media want. They don't want that unfettered, militant, kill all men.
They want Sidney Sheehan.
Right. They want somebody like Alyssa Milano, who's pretty and she's got the lipstick and she's kind of glamorized and she's nice. And that to me is another funny hypocrisy about how media is treating the Me Too movement. It's like, it needs to be satirized a little bit. We can't have, crazy Rose McGowan over here ranting off, when it's kind of like, well, hold on. Rose McGowan is the one who kind of broke the dam on Weinstein.
Right.
Regardless of, how you think of her mentally or whatever like that.
And who also did not at all try to make this some kind of partisan issue, and made it about, correctly, in my view, men in power who get away with shit, which has nothing to do with partisanship.
Correct.
I mean, this is another thing that drives me crazy about Republicans, when they're like, these are all Democratic men. I'm like, do you honestly think there are like these rich Republican CEOs who aren't getting away with this shit just because you haven't heard of them? It's so weird to me. Do you disagree?
You saw Kaplan from Facebook.
No.
He was in Brett.
Oh, yeah, correct, yeah.
And then he goes back to Facebook, and you had Facebook employees threatening Hari Kiri over it. And then he actually apologized for it. And then there was another blowback because he had a private party when Kavanaugh was confirmed.
Kegger.
And Kegger. Yeah, Kegger at Brett's. And I'll never understand that. I'll never understand CEOs bending the will to like the mob and their employees. I'll never get that. I mean, go work somewhere else. We saw that Brendan Eichen Firefox, which I wrote about at my website. I'll never understand that for as long as I live,
Yeah, but I mean, do you disagree with my larger assessment that this is not a partisan issue? And to portray
Me Too?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I don't. No, it's jail them all.
Right. And
take them all out, whether it's Fox, whether it's CBS, whether it's, Hollywood, Weinstein,
or some nobody, some nobody you've never heard of. I mean, this is something that I think it's really sad that it's become politicized, because this is something that's a much broader point,
and it's weaponized, and that's kind of one of the things about the Kavanaugh thing, is they're clearly exploiting the emotions of Me Too, again, with an uncorroborated accusation. And then the Democrats are clearly preying off that they know that they can throw that out there in this climate that we're in, and it will stick to, the emotions of their party, and it will, amplify what's going on. And that's clearly exploitation of, a lot of grief that people, like you saw this where the Ross story, which does these manipulative videos, and they said here was a 17-year-old girl who was reading a letter that she wrote to Brett Kavanaugh about her assault. And it's like, Brett Kavanaugh didn't assault the 17-year-old girl.
Right.
And again, Twitter's no place where you can justify logic that way in amount of time, or you get dogpiled.
And I think it's also important that we're sitting here as two white men to make it clear that just because, the Kavanaugh thing went through, I don't take these concerns lightly. I don't think it's funny when someone's assaulted.
No.
And I do think there are good things from the Me Too movement that it's a lot easier for anyone who's been through any trauma, including military people or anything, to have or divorce, trauma, getting fired, getting dumped, to have other people like, you know what? Because whenever you have a trauma, you think you're the only one this ever happened to. Like whenever you get divorced, I have a friend who's getting divorced. Like you think no one's ever been divorced before. No one knows how I feel. Lots of people have been through this. And it's the way to be healthy about it is to be able to feel safe and to talk about it and to know you're not going to be attacked. But by making it political, somehow people feel the need to, understandably, are going to defend their interests. Yeah. And there's going to be pushback. And that's very unfortunate.
Yeah, no, it's like I said, I'm all for if Rose McGowan wants to tear the system down, no matter how much I disagree with her, let her do it.
Yeah, because she's coming from truth.
Right. She doesn't care about her friends in Hollywood.
Right.
And she doesn't care about her friends in media. And I think that's why she's been kind of, shoved to the background, because she has no use for Chuck Todd and Meet the Press. She has no use for CNN and Anderson Cooper. She can go, I don't want to say go off the rails because that's, insensitive, but, in an interview, she could go off the rails or off script, I think is a better way of putting it. She could just go off script of, and start attacking, people that are at CBS, for instance. And that's an interesting thing, because you see what happened at Fox News is it's being treated completely different than what happened at CBS. Right. When CBS sounds like it's almost identical, where you had their top shows, you had their top executives. And now we also, like a week before the Kavanaugh thing started, you had reports that Andy Lack was covering up harassment scandals at NBC News.
Wow.
Andy Lack is still there, and they were still tweeting about Saturday Night Live.
Yeah.
And so there is that double standard there. And I think, again, like someone like McGowan, she's not someone who abides to that.
We're running out of time.
Oh, already?
I want to know what surprises you think are going to happen on election night. Do you have any predictions?
I don't know if I have surprises. I think the GOP is going to hold the Senate.
That's not a surprise.
No, it's not. It'll be a surprise when RBG kicks off 3 months later.
It's going to be Breyer.
Or maybe Breyer. There's also whisperings in the dungeons that Thomas may retire. And that may happen before RBG kicks the bucket. Okay. So I don't know if there's going to be a lot of surprises. I'm not a guy who thinks Beto O'Rourke is going to beat Ted Cruz.
No, I don't.
And that's what people want, and I don't think that's going to happen.
It's like Wendy Davis. He's the Wendy Davis. She lost by 20 points.
Yeah. But Beto's not running for senator right now. He's running for president.
You think so?
Yeah, he's running for president.
I don't think he's. I think he's a media creation entirely. I don't think he's going anywhere.
Well, the last media creation won.
That's
in
true.
2008.
That's true.
So that's not really an excuse.
That's a very valid point.
No, I don't have. I'm one of these guys where I look at the actual data's electoral politics, and I 100% defer to experts on Twitter. There's guys that you read. There's Decision Desk HQ is a good one. There's even Daily Kos elections is a good one. Liam Donovan's specifically a guy who knows a lot about the nuts and bolts, and so I'm one of those guys where you're infinitely looks smarter by who you retweet on Twitter than me trying to prognosticate what I think is going to happen. Like I said, I do think probably they're going to take the House, and if that happens, that hold on to your britches. You're going to have investigations out the wazoo.
But Trump is at his best when he's on the attack.
I would probably agree with that.
Yeah. So if they are going after him and he's hitting them back
and
hard.
Kavanaugh, we're going to open up investigations into the FBI report on all of this stuff, is what Pelosi has said. But there's no guarantee Pelosi's going to be, leader after that. It doesn't surprise me if they decide to make, Marksbay a Cortez party leader for the House.
Isn't Clyburn making? Clyburn's the number 3 guy, right? Yeah. He's making moves about taking over.
But they don't want that anymore.
I know they don't.
They want Marksbay.
But if it's 218 to 217, or 219 to 216, it's going to be amazing.
And I'm one of these guys who when you see the Kavanaugh stuff, you do get enraged by it because you feel so helpless to stop what CNN, NBC, or these corporations are doing. But on the other hand, I'm one of these guys where you crack your knuckles and get in the trenches and you just have fun with it. And there's a contingent of guys. You're one of them on Twitter where we enjoy doing this stuff. It's fun.
I do.
It's fun. Even when you're losing, it's fun.
I'm an anarchist. I just like the chaos.
Yeah, I know that. I mean, I'm not quite an anarchist, but I'm with you. It's
burn it down. You're that Elmo gif.
Well, no, when it happens, it's like, all right, let's go. Let's buckle up. A funny story with that, real fast, is when I was at National Review, and the Against Trump issue came out. A lot of us.
Let me just interrupt you.
Go ahead.
It was called Against Trump.
Yes.
It's been revisioned into Never Trump. That
No,
was
just
not the
Against
headline.
Trump.
It was Against Trump.
Right.
That's a very big difference.
Right. And I was in National Review when that issue came out, and a lot of like where the underlings there didn't really know about that. And so when it kind of dropped on our heads, and Lori went on, I think Megyn Kelly that night with the issue, we were all kind of, there was a few of us were like, let's go ahead and do it. Like my Twitter mentions are immediately getting bombarded with stuff because I just had NRO in my Twitter bio. And I was kind of like, all right, yeah, let's do this. Let's go to war. I mean, whatever.
It's fine.
It's like, so yeah, I'm kind of with you where, the kind of more chaotic, more fun it is on there. It's never boring. But on the other hand, yeah, I'm kind if they hold the House by 1 or 2 seats, you're going to see a rapture like none other you've ever seen on the left.
And they're not going to. I mean, Pelosi might not win then.
No,
because if she can't spare 1 or 2 votes, but I mean, it's
right.
She's an amazing parliamentarian. The fact that she got that Obamacare through and got people to give up their seats for it,
she's grossly underestimated by the youngins on the left.
Yes.
People like Mark Spey, like Ocasio-Cortez, who think that they can just come in there and tell you there's a new sheriff in town, sister. You're underestimating Pelosi like you're underestimating McConnell.
But also people on the right underestimate her. They think she's this like senile old lady. It's like, no, this woman is savvy.
Behind the scenes, she's one of the old cloakroom. Come into my office. Here's a glass of scotch. Let's
or a glass of poison. Which do you want to drink? Because you're going to drink one of them.
Yeah, exactly. And she's very much like that sense of like that McConnell or. And so yeah, I think the left is anyone who tries to dispense of her easily is going to be very shocked. And I think you're going to see that young DSA Democrat Socialist uprising try to kind of come in and throw their elbows around a little bit, and they're going to learn Pelosi will make you lonely real fast.
Yes, I can't wait.
So
Stephen Miller, always a great follower, co-host of the Conservatarians.
Yeah.
Red Steez on Twitter.
Yeah.
And I will see you all next week. We got Sargon. You are welcome.